Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We're gonna do kind of hybrid here. As I mentioned in the last video, I've been traveling the past couple weeks. So I got some footage of my recent trip to Lake Tahoe. And on that trip, I picked up this book right here, Haunted Lake Tahoe. It's by Janice Oberding. Oberding, I think I said it right. She is a resident around that area, and I guess she's appeared on multiple ghost hunting shows on Discovery Channel and whatnot. And I bought this book at the Vikings home gift shop, which you'll see some of this footage later on. And I will be doing some voiceover work, so after this intro, it'll be all footage of that. But at the Vikings home gift shop, which is this old Viking castle that a rich lady built in like the early 1900s. And they talk about the Vikings home in this book. So the Vikings home, this eccentric rich lady built it on Lake Tahoe. She went there. They built it in like less than a year. She had several hundred builders come out and build this thing with local materials and with materials she gathered from Scandinavia. She got different artifacts from Scandinavia and had them imported to decorate her home. Beautiful stained glass work, beautiful wood carvings. That being said, the book didn't really mention much about hauntings in the home itself. I definitely got some haunted vibes from there. You couldn't really go and explore around on your own, which I don't like. I wish you could have gone into more of the rooms on your own and check things out. You couldn't even go and peek in the library because supposedly they had some rare rug in there they didn't want people to walk on, which I found that strange too. I would have really enjoyed seeing what kind of books that lady had in her collection. One interesting thing that did come out of the tour that was not in the book is there is some underground passages underneath the Vikings home, which supposedly they use them for storage, but they don't let anybody down there. Not even the tour guides are allowed down there. So I always find it interesting when there's secret tunnels underneath a place. A lot of areas have secret tunnels for stone masons and whatnot, and they do a bunch of secret ceremonies, occult ceremonies are held in these underground passages. So there's a lot of freaky stuff going on down there. I went in the day. I didn't really get any vibes of ghost from the Vikings home, but I would strongly suspect that that place probably is haunted. In the book, Janice does mention there was a tea house on an island. I'm sure I got some footage of it somewhere in the video. That's called Emerald Bay, and it sits on a little island. That tea house, and I didn't know this at the time, and none of the tour guides, I went on 2 different tours, one at the Vikings home and a boat tour, and neither guide mentioned this, but that tea house was originally a crypt that another rich guy built on that island to be entombed in there when he died. And when he died, his will was not followed, and he was not entombed in that place. And the rumor is that his ghost wanders around that Lake Tahoe area, and the only way to free his spirit is to find his remains. I think it said that his ashes were in an urn in some graveyard somewhere, and the only way to lift his spirit and help him pass to the other side would be to entomb those ashes in that tea house that the rich lady that made the Vikings home turned into the tea house. It was originally a tomb, put his ashes in there, and that would free his spirit. So I found that interesting in this book. The book is really written like my first book, where she does some investigation and then she does some rumors that she heard and just some local legends. So I really like that. If you're into that, I would highly recommend picking up this book and reading it before you go. I learned a lot of stuff that I would have liked to check out had I gotten this book first. One of the most interesting things I found is there's a local cryptid there called the Ong, O-N-G, and I guess it's a creature that has an eagle body, and it's described as being tall as the tallest pine trees, so pretty big. And then it's got like a human face covered in scales and duck feet, webbed feet, and it supposedly attacks people and drowns them. So that's one thing I heard both on the tours and from this book, was a lot of people drowned in Lake Tahoe, so there's a lot of spirits there. You know me, I swam a lot in Lake Tahoe. The author of this book goes into detail, and she says, you know, part of the reason why people drown in Lake Tahoe is it's really easy to sink. I like to swim underwater. I swam down probably, the deepest I dove was probably 30 feet. And you get down there really easy, and then it's hard to come back up. So because that water's so clear, you have almost no buoyancy. It's super hard to float. It's hard to swim. And so people drowned every year. People drowned every year in Native American times. They drowned every year all the time. And the really freaky thing is a lot of the bodies are never recovered. So the book mentions that Jacques Cousteau, the famous diver, supposedly swam, scuba dived down to the bottom and saw a bunch of bodies. And the lake's so deep that you can't really get down there unless you had like some sort of big submersible, like a submarine or something. So there's all these bodies down there, and they don't really decay. The boat tour guide told us a story that was in this book too, that a guy, scuba diver, drowned, and his body was recovered like 30 years later, and it had hardly decayed at all in 30 years because that water is so cold. The other cool place I would have liked to check out that was in this book that I didn't know was there was the Cal Naval, let me see, Cal Nava Casino. It was owned by Frank Sinatra, and Marilyn Monroe went there. And again, it had secret tunnels, and lots of weird stuff goes on there. They see Marilyn Monroe's ghost. They see Frank Sinatra's ghost. So that would have been really interesting to check out. Another thing I did know that was close, but I didn't get a chance to check it out because I only had a couple days there, was right by there is a lake. Now it's called Donner Lake. It used to be called Tucky Lake. And that's where the Donner Party expedition met its ill-fated end. And if you're not familiar with that, a bunch of pioneers got trapped in the snow and ended up resorting to cannibalism, and something like 50 people died and were eaten there. And supposedly that's a big haunted area, and you can camp there and experience all sorts of supernatural stuff. But anyways, this book was great. She mentioned some other spots. And again, what's interesting, all these secret tunnels. So there was a couple other mansions with secret tunnels. There was another crypt. Another rich guy built a crypt in the mountains, and he didn't get laid to rest in it. And they carved it out of the mountain into the granite. And supposedly his spirit still wanders around because he was never entombed in there. So there's all sorts of spirits around in that area. Pioneer spirits, rich and famous spirits, cryptid, just all sorts of cool stuff. So I recommend this book. Read this book before you go to Lake Tahoe, and there is tons of interesting stuff to check out, and I'll see you guys next time. Oh, and if you like the video, make sure you give it a like and a thumbs up. Leave a comment. That really helps me out on the algorithms.